Yo, so I think that overly quantized drums represent a huge problem to producers in this modern digital age. Just because we have the option to perfectly quantize our beats and get things into perfect timing, a lot of people mistakenly rely upon quantization and they take and strip their beats of emotion and feeling and life. And that's reflected in their music. It doesn't groove as well. It doesn't sound real. It doesn't sound natural. And therefore, it doesn't get you to move in the same way that a beat that is unquantized does. All right? So people often mistake quantization and they rely upon quantizing their beats in a way that I believe that they shouldn't. So what I'm going to do today is show you an alternative on Maschine. I want you to understand how you can bridge that gap on Maschine from being way too sloppy with your drums, meaning that things are not in timing at all and it creates no groove, whereas the polar opposite of not having any sort of timing is having too much timing, and that's overly relying upon your grid and quantizing things way too much. All right, so I want to show you how to bridge that gap and meet somewhere in the middle using a technique that I utilize on Maschine. All right, and it's basically just about manually perfecting your groove using Maschine's editing mode. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna jump on over to Maschine and I'm gonna show you my method for using the grid on Maschine to sculpt the groove of the beat in a different way so that it's not overly quantized and it's still not sloppy. All right, so my name is Rob. I'm the author of Maschine, the Hip Hop Beatmaker's Missing Manual, which is the #1 book and guide in the world for machine producers that are looking to learn how to create great album quality beats using only the Maschine. Okay, so we'll talk about that more later, but let's jump on over to Maschine and let me show you how to get a perfect groove in your beat utilizing this little technique that I've come up with. Okay, so before we get started, I want to be clear about the importance of what I'm talking about right now. Good musicians have an innate sense of timing, meaning that their groove, their natural bodily rhythm, the way that they carry a beat is much different than the way a computer can process that beat. Computers are made off of, the music on computers are formulaic. Even if you perfectly quantize and then swing your drums out, it's formulaic music. Whereas human tendencies and natural rhythms are not at all formulaic. It's an organic, feeling-based thing. All right, and that's why I believe it's so important in order to develop your natural sense of rhythm, your natural sense of timing, so that you can incorporate your own feeling into your music and put your own unique stamp on your music. So that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to walk you through the process of creating a great drum groove. All right, and this is the foundation of everything. I'm going to basically tell you how I start things. I'm going to jump into the kick drum first and then build my beat around the timing of the kick drum. And the reason that I do that is because it just makes the most sense to get the timing of the kick drum perfect first, and then you can start to construct the rest of the groove around it. As you're about to see, I have a pretty decent sense of timing naturally when I'm counting on a grid, but it's not absolutely perfect. And the way that I edit and manipulate and change my timing, I try to avoid pressing that quantize button in order to get it. So I'm going to show you what I'm doing, and you can utilize these techniques on your own, okay? So let's go ahead and start this from the beginning. All right, so what I just did was I recorded in the pattern loosely, and then I quantized halfway. All right? Quantizing halfway is good to get you in the general direction. Never press the quantize button outright. All right? I know that might seem contradictory, but that's the best way to do it. I press shift and then 50%. 50% is pressing the quantize button, but it's shifting 50% in the right direction. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to listen to this groove, and sort of listen for specific places within the groove in which the kick drum sounds off. And then I'm going to jump in on using my machine and edit these without using the grid to make the timing of these notes a little better. Okay, so that's not absolutely perfect, but it's probably as good as I want to mess with it for right now. But basically, this is the structure of the beginning of the beat. I want to make sure that the kick is in perfect timing, and this is probably 94% of the way there. If I had more time, just for the sake of the tutorial, I want to sort of move things along a little bit faster and show you this in more of a condensed version. But what I'm doing now is, as you can see, these notes are off. These second notes are off. Some of these notes are slightly off timing, and what that creates is a little bit more of a feeling inside of the beat. All right, as you can see, I also dip down the velocity of some of these like ghost notes in here, and I think that adds a little bit more character to the style of the beat. And what I'm going to do now is sort of build around the rest of the groove and sort of build up the instrumentation. And this is going to help get more of a live, realistic feel inside of the beat without having to heavily rely upon the grid itself and the quantized button. All right, so guys, that's the basic gist of this concept. It's all about getting the drums, especially the kick drum, the timing of that correctly. I sort of got carried away and started building more of the groove, but this is essentially the entire basis of the track. Your drums are going to create the rhythm, they're going to create the emotion. They are the foundational building block and probably 60-70% of the importance of your entire track. All right, meaning that the drums are going to carry the rhythm, they're going to carry the emotion. Those are the things that are going to make the majority of the importance of what you're doing with your music, okay? So as you just saw, getting the kick drum timing correct is the first essential step, all right? I did a lot of editing of the rhythm and the groove, and as you can see, in certain places it's off timing, and that's fine. After I sort of built around that kick drum, I was able to add in a hi-hat and a snare, and as you can see, none of those are in perfect timing as well. But the overall effect of this is a much more vibrant groove, all right? And what I'm going to do, let me do this just to demonstrate. I'm going to copy this groove over to another drum group, and I'm going to quantize the thing perfectly. And I'm going to let you hear the difference between the two, all right? So I'll turn this one off. This is the quantize, and this is the, I guess let's call it the hybrid, because it's not exactly live and it's not exactly fully quantized. So let's disable this one and let you hear what a perfectly quantized groove sounds like. So it doesn't sound bad, but as you can see in certain areas, it's sort of not quite tight enough. It doesn't sound live. It doesn't sound, it sounds a little bit robotic. All right, and this is what the hybrid drums sound like. So you can always play around with this a little bit further to sort of tighten up the groove. But if I would have done this correctly, if I would have done this within the reasonable amount of timing that I normally have without the timing constraints of making a lesson, a video lesson, I would have focused for probably a while in making sure that this kick drum was absolutely perfect. I would have cleared it out, re-recorded it again just to make sure that the timing of this is as good as it can possibly be. Okay, because once you have this initial kick drum timing perfect, you know that everything else that you put around it, you know that you can trust and rely upon your sense of timing when you enter that in. So if it doesn't sound absolutely perfect, you know that the kick drum is right, that pattern, that base of this drum sequence is right, so that everything else can fit around it a little bit better. All right, so that's the essence of this technique in building drums, all right? Do not rely 100% on the quantize button. Make sure that you add and keep a live element to your drums, and make sure everything is sort of in loose timing. That is sort of debatable for a lot of people, especially within house music scene and trap music, especially because trap is so snapped to a grid. But in my opinion, it makes for better music this way. If you're creating hip-hop, if you're creating, more soulful house music, this is the style that you need to be incorporating into your beats, all right? So if you are interested in this type of nerdy, really, advanced concepts within Maschine, you're past the point where you understand how to turn on the Maschine software and throw on some sounds, and you're making basic beats, but you want to take your sound on Maschine, and your knowledge and your techniques on Maschine to the next level, so that you can start to create beats that are more professionally polished. They sound professional. They have a professional feel. Okay, I need you to really listen and pay attention to what I'm about to tell you. I have a 89-page guide It's called Maschine, the Hip Hop Beatmaker's Missing Manual. It's 89 pages and goes in depth into the professional techniques inside of Maschine, the intermediate and advanced techniques, to teach you things like mixing using Maschine, how to build drum grooves on Maschine, where to sample from on the internet, all the advanced features of Maschine hardware and software so that you can learn the skills that you need to create album quality beats on this thing, all right? I want you to grab a copy of this guide. Normally this guide is $49, but I've realized over the last year or two that it's within my best interest to try and get this book into the hands of as many people as possible, because this Maschine community is really tight-knit. You know, everyone's really, a lot of other people out here are really focused on trying to make money from this thing, whereas I want to give value to you. I want to make sure that I give before I ask you for anything, all right? So I have decided to reduce the price of this guide for a limited time from $49 to just $1, okay? Just to make sure that you have some skin in the game and that you actually appreciate this, to separate out the people who are just kicking tires and wanting free stuff. So grab your copy of this book by clicking the link in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching this on the blog, there will be a link at the very bottom of the blog article to get your copy of this book, all right? It's just $1, no catch, no hidden tricks, no strings attached, all right? You'll be taken to a page where you can enter in your name and your contact information and find out a little bit more about the book as well. So I appreciate you sticking with me. I appreciate you watching this short video lesson that I had upon teaching you how to groove properly on Maschine. My name is Rob. I'm the author of this book, Maschine, the Hip Hop Beatmaker's Missing Manual, and the author of the Hip Hop Rally blog. There's more in-depth information about groove and timing inside the blog article that I wrote on this subject. That's also linked in the description. Make sure you subscribe to this channel to stay afloat into the best techniques for intermediate and advanced Maschine producers. None of that baby stuff, all right? So I'll talk to you in the next video. Peace.